Racist such quality music. Oh yeah. Right, what was it? Was a bit too short last time.
What about, yeah, let's do
Got four. Yeah, do
this
some Mozart.
Mozart too?
and welcome to you all. The ceremony will start in just a few moments. The procession is on its way, but before it starts, I just have a few requests and notices. Can you please ensure that all mobiles are on silent, switched to flight mode, or switched off? There'll be no personal photography or filmography is permitted during the ceremony. This is due to data protection. Professional photographs are available to purchase, and a stream of the event is available on YouTube. In the extremely unlikely event that we need to exit the building in a hurry, please remain calm and seated. The marshals that showed you to your seats will lead you out of the building. If children become unsettled or disrupted during the ceremony, they may be asked to leave the church. When the ceremony has finished, the procession will leave the church and you will be asked to stand. The procession will be followed by the graduates, our guests, and finally our VIPs, and then finally our remaining guests will then be asked to follow. Please follow as directed by the marshals. Finally, to our graduands, may I be the first to congratulate you on your achievement. When your name is called, please step onto the stage. You will shake the Chancellor's hand before looking at the camera on my left, for your official photos. If you prefer not to shake the Chancellor's hand, please cross your arm over your shoulder to indicate instead that you'd like to bow. When you leave the stage, please walk down the centre aisle to the back of the church, where a marshal will escort you back to your seat. Thank you. Please enjoy the ceremony and the rest of your day. Can I now ask for you all to stand for the procession?
Please be seated.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Archer, and I have the honour to be the Chancellor of the University. And in that capacity, it's my great pleasure warmly to welcome you all to today's graduation ceremony. And particularly, I welcome our graduands. You're the reason we're all here. We're here to celebrate your success. Attaining your degree from the University of Buckingham has, I know, required hard work and dedication. And we're gathered together, faculty, proud family members and friends, to celebrate your achievement. I expect you know that you have enjoyed the benefits of an unusually high standard of teaching from our dedicated staff. Just recently, the university was shortlisted in 2 categories of the What Uni Student Choice Awards. You are part of a diverse and multicultural student body, which, if you've been on campus at all, or even virtually, will have introduced you to people, experiences, traditions, and cultures from across the world. You have learnt respect for freedom of speech within the law, which is one of the distinctive and distinguished features of this university. Your future lives are full of hope and possibility. Your knowledge and skills will be the building blocks of whichever school, community, or country you work in. Because a school, a community, a nation's future depends much more on its human resources and their skills than it does on their physical or natural resources. So welcome, and on with the ceremony. Thank you.
Dame Mary Archer, Chancellor, Lord Lingfield, Lady Lingfield, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Dean of the Faculty of Education, Registrar, learned colleagues, friends and family, and of course, last but not least, the graduands of the University of Buckingham. Congratulations to all of you, and you and your loved ones can rightfully be proud of your achievements that have brought you here today. You're graduating from this University of Buckingham in 2025, which is 1 year short of our 50th anniversary, which we're celebrating next year, the 50th anniversary of the University College at Buckingham as it was created then. And the opening speaker for the university, standing right in the spot where I'm standing today, was one Margaret Thatcher. She was very close to the university from the beginning. She guided us through the Privy Council to obtain in 1983 our Royal Charter and therefore become the University of Buckingham proper. And when, as we could say, she retired from politics in 1992, she became our much-loved Chancellor, as indeed Dame Mary is our much-loved Chancellor to this very day. Now, I know that from some quarters, there may be some mixed feelings about her. Not Dame Mary, Baroness Thatcher. Recently, for instance, I was in a mining village in County Durham in the northeast of England. And a man of actually roughly my age walked past wearing a t-shirt, a white t-shirt emblazoned with the legend, "I still hate Margaret Thatcher." But contrast that with another visitor I had recently to the campus, one of the first cohort of women MPs from Bahrain, who was thrilled to discover that we had this relationship with the woman she called the international icon, who had done so much for the cause of women, she said. Margaret Thatcher famously told her local newspaper in 1970, "There will not be a woman prime minister in my lifetime because the male population is too prejudiced." And 9 years later, in 79, she was, of course, that first woman prime minister. But at Buckingham, we are proud to stand on the shoulders of giants like her, like so many people who have been part of the family of our university. Those we admire exemplify values of leadership, resilience, and determination. We can draw inspiration from their examples as we embark on our own journeys of discovery and accomplishment. So this graduation service today is mostly to confer degrees and certificates in education, but there are also some of our collaboration partners from Learner, I understand. But it's particularly exciting to me, and if you'll forgive me, to focus on the education graduates in particular, as my life's work, my life's academic work, has also been in education. In particular, for most of my life, I've been working in the poorest slums and rural villages of sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, exploring this phenomenon of ultra-low-cost private schools for the poor, if you like. And I first discovered this phenomenon some 25 years ago, And there was a disjunction in my life that I was an expert. I'd become an expert on private education. But everyone knew at the time that private education is about the rich, the elite, the upper middle classes. And yet I wanted my life to be about serving the poor. But one day I was able to square that circle. And I went into I was doing some consultancy work in Hyderabad in south central India. And I went into the slums of the old city and found a school, not a government school, not a state school, but a small private school charging a couple of pounds a month. And then I found another and another, and I was soon connected to this federation of 500 of these low-cost private schools. And I talked to the parents, mostly Muslim mothers in the old city of Hyderabad, and said, well, why are you sending your children to private school when the government schools are free and you get free books and a free lunch at lunchtime? And time again they said, because in the government schools our children are abandoned. And so I went to visit one of these government schools, and the memory is forever etched in my mind of entering this school. We were accompanied by the district education officer. They knew we were coming. And the first classroom, there was 130 little children on the floor amongst the mosquitoes in this classroom, eager, keen, wanting to meet this visitor, but not doing any teaching because the teachers weren't present, as they were most days absent. And it broke my heart to see that. And I thought, well, the private schools, look at the contrast. And so my life's work came to be looking at the alternatives to government schools, which were often in the way I've just described. And my life's journey took off looking at this phenomenon in the slums of Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, and then later looking at war-torn countries in Africa, Sierra Leone, Liberia, South Sudan, Somalia, and all the time finding this extraordinary phenomenon of entrepreneurs creating schools immediately, in those last cases, immediately as the civil war came to an end. In Sierra Leone, for instance, people were creating schools in tents because the recognition was that wanting to educate your child is as important as wanting to feed, clothe, and house them. I'll never forget some of the memories I've got of being in Juba during the civil war in South Sudan and recognizing that the government schools were safely tucked away in the well-protected city center, whereas in the sprawling, low-density slums, you might call them, of Juba, catering for the children there were these low-cost private schools. So this has been my life's work, and I share it with you only to say, as educators, we can do amazing things. We can do intensely rewarding things and intensely rich things. In education, we hold the power to shape the future of our society. And with this privilege, of course, comes great responsibility. We have the power to shape the minds and hearts of the next generation. And we must enable them to understand the past, the better to work towards the future. I was recently asked by a journal to list the things that I'd learnt in my experiences over the last 25, 30 years working in these schools. And I just want to give you three of those learnings. So first, once you've found what you want to be doing, do focus. My life tended to be unfocused at certain times, and I was never sure whether I was an entrepreneur or an educator or an academic. Once you find what you want to do focus on that, because that way you can achieve so much more in your life. Second, do make sure you acknowledge the people who have helped you on your way as often as you can. That includes acknowledging people on the stage here. That includes acknowledging friends and family and mentors. But people like being thanked and having their contribution recognized and will do more for you. Don't pretend that it's all your own doing. Don't pretend that it's all because of who you are that you make great achievements. And finally, I'd like to say, do learn and grow from failure and perceived or real injustice. You're going to start out on ventures, whether it's in schools or business or other employment or indeed in relationships, and you're going to fail. At some point, you're going to have some injustices committed against you, they will stop you from succeeding. But when things go wrong, this is the hardest learning of all in my life, but nonetheless, I think it's an important learning, and you may know it already. When things go wrong, as they will, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, start all over again. Those are the words, of course, of the famous song from 1936, first sung by Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the French Jesuit Catholic priest and great educator, put, I think, this into a very helpful way. He said, in the final analysis, the questions of why bad things happen to good people transmutes itself into some very different questions, no longer asking why something happened, but asking how we will respond, what we intend to do now that it has happened. We can be victims of things that happen to us. We can acquiesce in those failings, or we can seize our agency to do something about it. Seize your agency. There is a Yoruba proverb, an alumnus from Nigeria told me this yesterday, which I think is quite relevant. And the proverb is, if you're a child and you're running along and you trip, you carry on running. When you get to my age and you're probably no longer running, you might be walking and you trip, you stop. You look back and you see what made you trip. You learn from your mistakes and then you carry on after that. And I think that's a very powerful parable for the message I'm trying to say here. The motto of the University of Buckingham in Latin is Alice Proprius Volans, in English, flying on our own wings. And we'd like to think that as graduates, coming up to be graduates of the University of Buckingham, we have helped you find your wings to let you fly. But we also want to be part of your roots. So do think of yourselves as you graduate today. Think of yourselves as being alumni of this growing international family. We want to give you reasons to come back and to stay physically and metaphorically. Do see yourself as part of this growing family. I extend my deepest gratitude to the faculty, staff and mentors who've guided you on this way. I'd like to say a particular word. I think I forgot to mention our honorary graduate at the beginning, Dr. Anita Devi. I do apologize. You're very welcome here. And I'd particularly like to say just 2 words about Dame Mary Archer, who is a chancellor in a million. She really is. She comes here for all our graduation ceremonies, sits here, shakes everyone's hand, goes down to the marquee afterwards. We've had 3 dinners and 4 lunches, or is it 4 dinners and 3 lunches in the last couple of days? And she's always there at the end of the phone, or Teams call nowadays, isn't it, to talk and help and nurture us in what we're doing here. So I really want us to thank Dame Mary Archer for all she does for the university. Can we thank her, please? Dame Mary and I will be, and of course the rest of the faculty will be in the marquee afterwards, and we look forward to shaking your hands afterwards. Yesterday, one of the distinguished guests in the marquee said to me, "Can I be honest with you?" And I said, "Of course, I value honesty immensely." And she said, "Okay, your speech dragged on a bit, but you were very good at clapping the students." So without further ado, I shall hand over to those who maybe speak better and look forward to clapping you as you come onto the stage. Thank you very much.
Chancellor, Mr. Graham Jones, University Orator, will present Dr. Anita Devi for the degree of Doctor of Education, honoris causa.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, as you know, Here at the University of Buckingham, we strongly believe in the joy of learning for everyone. We have flexible entrance requirements, and we have significant support systems in place for students with special educational needs. Indeed, I know talking with our students that this is one of the reasons they choose us. And your international work, Vice-Chancellor, in bringing education to those who may not have been able to enjoy it, both in Africa and India and further afield, further underlines your desire as our university's leader to bring the joy of learning to all. So it's no surprise then that today's Honorary Doctorate of Education, Dr. Anita Devi, is another advocate of the joy of learning for everyone. Indeed, I doubt there is a teacher who has not come across her work somewhere. In fact, I discovered her work initially when she contributed a chapter to the book The Ladder, Supporting Students Towards Successful Futures and Confident Career Choices. That book was put together by Andrew Bernie Bernard, who I've known for several years. That book was also reviewed by Buckingham's Professor of Entrepreneurship, Professor Nigel Adams, who said, "The ladder will help anyone who, like me, believes that we must help, encourage, and support all young people to develop and then achieve their dreams." Anita's contribution to that book was looking at how companies could help students with special educational needs with their career aspirations. As someone who works in the business school here in Buckingham, her topic opened my eyes to many possibilities. Since then, Anita has written several books, including First Send Book for Early Career Teachers, The 7 Dimensions of Highly Effective Senkos, and Journeying to the Heart of Senko Wellbeing. She's edited her most recent work, Understanding Neuroplasticity and Neurodiversity in the Classroom, a handbook for Senkos and teachers. Anita's contributed to several other publications, including Take Time for Senkos, Journey to the Heart of Senko Wellbeing. Dr. Devi has been able to write widely on her topic, following a career that carries a wealth of experience developing leaders of learning. She initially attained a degree in psychology in London before gaining a master's in inclusive education at the Open University and a PhD in education and social justice from Lancaster. Her own teaching experience covers 4 decades in which she has taught all ages, from early years right through to postgrad. During that time, she's received many awards and honours. She was given the Excellence in Education Award in 2011 and the Influential Educational Leaders Award in 2017 for her work on SEND Leadership Pipeline Strategy. That's about developing professionals to have a deep working appreciation of special education needs and disability in the classroom, from initial teacher training through to advanced and experienced leaders. She has even won the Toastmaster of the Year award. Now, that's not for raising a toast at a wedding, but it's an international award for her ability as a public speaker. No pressure for your speech following this then. Currently, Dr. Devi is a Changemaker education consultant and the founding CEO of Team ADL, as well as project lead for 365 Send. And if you want a good guide to Anita's career and achievements, the Team ADL website has an excellent infographic showing her progress and contribution over the years. And if you peek further into the website, you will see that the University of Buckingham is one of the educational establishments that Team ADL has worked with. Team ADL, by the way, is the organisation that Anita established to increase the inclusive culture of leadership in schools and colleges. Beyond Team ADL's website, though, Anita is a seemingly avid user of Instagram. And she did say earlier, how have you found out all these things about me? And I said, there's this internet thing. And Instagram reveals about her something that's not in her official biography. She clearly likes tea because there are lots of images on that theme in Instagram. And as every teacher knows, tea is fundamental to our existence. So with that in mind, I'll wind up now so that we can get to the marquee and get on with the ceremony more quickly so that Anita can grab a cuppa as fast as possible. If you get a chance to have a chat with her later, you'll discover, like I have done, that Anita is passionate about stretching the boundaries of what's possible in the field of special educational needs, disability, and inclusion. Her contribution in this area of education is outstanding, and she is therefore a very deserving person to receive today's honorary doctorate in education.
Dr. Devi, by the authority of the university, it gives me great pleasure to confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Education, honoris causa.
Dr. Devi will now reply to convocation.
Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, Registrar, Professors Lennon and Dunbar-Morris, members of the university, guests, families and graduands. Thank you kindly for this esteemed invitation and privilege. Before I share my formal remarks, I wanted to share how much I appreciate the University of Buckingham. Whilst my substantive role is in the education sector, I also volunteer at Milton Keynes University Hospital as part of the chaplaincy and more recently, a storyteller on the children's ward. Yes, indeed, that is a real title. I am the official storyteller of Ward 5. Every time I drive onto the campus, seeing the University of Buckingham Academic Centre brings a smile to my heart. This year marks the 10th anniversary of this academic partnership with the hospital, and for such an alliance in Milton Keynes, we are truly grateful. This is not my first visit to the university, but as on previous occasions, I've had the opportunity to occasionally guest lecture on postgraduate courses. I've always been met by academic staff who radiate a passion for their subject specialism, and students who are respectful and always keen to learn more. Today has been no exception. Back in September 2024, when I was first informed of this honour, I was completely blown away. And even now, it is still a lot to take in. I started teaching in my local community in London when I was 12. And I knew at the age of 14, my vocational calling was in the field of education. Last September, when I was told of this honour, marked 40 years since my calling. I guess you know my age by now. 4 decades, and the education system and process of learning still brings a sense of awe and wonder to my life. That's the potency of learning. It's transformative, expanding our horizons beyond anything we could have ever imagined. I was even more astounded when I realised that I was walking in the footprints of many esteemed giants, including the actor Sir Ben Kingsley, who received this honorary doctorate from this prestigious institution last year. Ben's first role, his major first role, came in 1982, when he played Gandhi in the global award-winning portrayal of this Indian social reformer. My paternal grandfather stood alongside the real Mahatma Gandhi in the fight for Indian independence. So the release of this film meant a lot to my family. Speaking of family, I would also like to recognise the contribution of my mother in shaping my aspirations for education. At 14, she put me forward as a volunteer to help with a particular event that was being led by 2 teacher visionaries, Dr. and Mrs. Kanu, both originally from Sierra Leone, but at the time teaching in an inner London education authority school, whilst preparing to go out to Zambia to set up a school in the Copperbelt area. At the time, like any teenager, I was not pleased to be volunteered, and I remember doing the stroppy teenager bit. Do I have to? But I did, and it changed my life. Many years later, I went out to Zambia to help Dr. and Mrs. Kanu set up their A-level provision. In establishing the school in one of the toughest ghetto areas, they had taken children of the age of 8 who were known as murderers and rapists, even at that age, and transformed them into scholars who were model citizens in their community. That's the power of education. The schools that Dr. and Mrs. Kanu led had the highest academic results in the country. One of their students established a school in Kenya, and I was privileged to help him train his school leaders. My mother was a very visionary woman too. Born in 1938 in India, just before the Second World War, she completed 2 degrees before landing here in the UK in 1954. Today, this may not seem much, but back then, for a female in India to complete 1 degree, let alone 2, was quite something. London in 1954 was also not very cosmopolitan, and yet her first job in the UK was on Threadneedle Street near the Bank of England. There are countless others I could mention to whom I owe a debt of gratitude that has led me to be here today with you all. Standing before you, publicly, I say 3 words, but in my mind and in my heart, I recognise the value of so many. My 3 words: I am grateful. So back to today. It fills me with joy to be here on this day at the Church of St. Peter and St. Paul in Buckingham. Today marks the 37th day of Lent, not counting Sundays, the start of the Passover for the Jewish community, and the eve to the start of Holy Week for Christians, with tomorrow being Palm Sunday. It is indeed a memorable date, as it also marks the first human spaceflight by Yuri Gagarin in 1961, 64 years ago. So all of you can say, I graduated on International Day of the Human Spaceflight. May you continue to reach for the stars and be filled with awe and wonder to discover new galaxies. When I contemplated what I would share with you today, I couldn't help but consider the weight of knowing how colossal this moment of transition is for you all. In the words of the leadership expert John Maxwell, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. In my preparation, I recognized how vital it was for whoever would speak to you today to impart wisdom that was both memorable and practical, and how consequential the right voice could be to your budding careers and subsequently your lives in general. Because for some of you, that person just might be one of the last responsible professionals to pour into your souls some of the most poignant advice you could ever receive before setting sail in the ocean of life. For this opportunity and this moment, I am grateful. So let me start by congratulating you all. A qualification holds 2 dimensions of learning: the formal subject, knowledge and skills, and the informal, understanding oneself and the wider humanity. The survival and thriving of any society rests on the interdependence of these 2 dimensions. Think back to your first day at the University of Buckingham. How did you feel? There would have been a wide kaleidoscope of emotions. Some of you would have felt nervous, some excited, and some even doubtful. Will I make it? But you did, and that is no small feat. Pat yourselves on the back. Go ahead, pat yourselves on the back. Permit me now to share with you 3 simple lessons I've learned over the 4 decades of my vocation. You will not remember my entire speech, but if at least one of these stick and give you some insight to move forward in your life journey, then I will have done this moment justice. If, however, you remember not a single word, well, no need to mention that to anyone. Just keep that to yourselves. However, just to pull it all together, my 3 ideas refer to the continuum of time. After all, receiving an honorary doctorate today, surely I'm in the realm of Doctor Who. Firstly, let me invite you to look back with gratitude. Today, the spotlight is on you. But many people, including friends and family, good times and tough challenges have all led you to this moment in time. Take nothing and no one for granted. Thankfulness is such a powerful antidote to negativity, anxiety, and depression. It activates understanding, and most of all, it accelerates growth. So before you go to bed tonight, as a graduate of 2025, take a moment and think about all the people that you need to thank. Bless them and be intentional in communicating your appreciation. Consider all the situations you have faced, and again, be thankful. We can't always be in the spotlight, nor, in all honesty, should we desire to be. It can be exhausting. Ask anyone who is highly visible. They would give anything for a bit of privacy. We do live in a world where social media pushes individuals to the extreme of seeking out the spotlight. I think at this point I should interject with my Instagram tea comment. In Hebrew, in tea, chai actually means life. And so for Christmas in 2024, we had Chai Christmas, hence the tea references. But when we are grateful, the spotlight in us shines more brightly than the spotlight on us. Just like the Doctor Who TARDIS, bigger on the inside. I do hope there are some Doctor Who fans in the audience today, otherwise my wit is falling on unattuned ears. But I will say this again. When we are grateful, the spotlight in us shines more brightly than the spotlight on us. Let it always be that way, bigger on the inside. Gratitude also helps diffuse conflict situations. Not everyone will agree with your views, or you, and that's okay. Diversity is healthy. It expands our hearts and minds. Sometimes people will criticize your work. In such moments, thank them for their feedback and ask for clarity. Gratitude works wonders in road rage too. On occasions when a speeding car has come up behind me, hooting and basically complaining that I'm on the road, I am a sound driver, just in case, I let them pass. And I wave, as they do. It's a non-verbal signal, I think, for saying thank you, I guess. You should see their faces as they drive past. It's wonderful to watch. I am a first-generation Indian Christian in my family. I was born and grew up in North London, where as a child I witnessed a lot of racial tensions, violence, and prejudice. It wasn't easy, and I do not agree with the views of such narrow-minded people. But I am grateful. These experiences cemented my commitment to social justice and a legacy started by my grandparents about dealing with oppression through non-violence. That was the core of Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy, leading to peace. Jesus Christ himself in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, talks of love your enemies. Wow. Now imagine that on TikTok. Jesus also demonstrates a different perception of what it means to be blessed. Matthew 5 again, do look it up. It might just shape your future. So let's move to the future and my second point. No one knows what tomorrow holds. but I can encourage you to remain compassionately curious. Regardless of your background, upbringing, and social status, we are all connected through our humanity. Let our success not be at the cost of others. Care for your community, your neighbours, and your work colleagues. I moved from the west side of Milton Keynes to the east side at the end of lockdown 1 in 2020. The cul-de-sac where I live is beautiful, and I'm grateful to have a roof over my head, especially on cold winter nights. Soon after I moved in, I realised that as a community, most of my neighbours didn't know each other. I was going to change that. With small and random acts of kindness, I managed to gather 4 of my immediate neighbours together, and we planned an outdoor event for the whole street. I should say at this point, the 4 households that came together included Muslims, Jews, Christians, and those who choose not to follow a faith. In the news, you will often hear and read about these 4 people groups being at war with each other, historically, and in the present day. But we came together as 4 households. We planned the event, we knocked on everyone's door personally, and invited them to come, and they did. At the gathering, we discovered what I would call the hidden people of society. Classrooms have them too. But in our street, these were families who had to flee their home country due to violence. It was the lonely, the elderly, and the socially vulnerable. We sat that afternoon in the warm weather with a cold beverage and asked each other questions about our stories and life journeys. By the end of the evening, there was an exchange of numbers, and we now have a neighbourhood WhatsApp group that anyone can use should they need help or just want to share some good news. This might seem really small and simple, but let me tell you, there are 2 families on my street who have lived there for 20 years, and they didn't know anyone prior to our gathering. For some of you, the new season of transition may involve moving to a new place. Can I invite you to be intentional in getting to know your neighbours? A bit of care can go a long way, and who knows, one day you might need their help too. So we've considered the past and being grateful. We've envisaged the future about being intentional and connecting with people around us to foster community. The bridge in the middle, it's not the mic, the bridge in the middle is the now, the present day. How we act in this moment. Our todays are yesterdays of tomorrow. And I invite you to consider how you would describe your character to someone who doesn't know you. What values do you uphold when making decisions, especially when dealing with tricky situations? How do you respond to difficult people, publicly and privately? As much as we like to think of the world as a wonderful place where everyone gets on, the reality is you will meet people who you do not see eye to eye with. The easy path of avoidance isn't always the most ideal either. It creates silos and echo chambers. So it all boils down to the choices we make, the decisions we pursue, and the approaches we adopt to problem solving. No 2 solutions will be the same, so there is no magic formula. But I can tell you, your character and values will carry you through the storms of life. Focus on being human and not harming others. That's all it takes to be successful. Focus on being human and not harming others. It's a great classroom strategy for behaviour management too, folks. The kids love it. As part of my career journey, I've had the privilege of establishing a community interest company. In setting this up, I thought deeply about not only what we would do, but more importantly, how we would do it. I spent time defining the values we would uphold in every circumstance. These are: we care, we challenge, and we contribute. I thought about our purpose and our mission. We are very clear. We develop people, we grow organisations, and we strengthen localities. But I also thought about what we would do with the profits. If we earned £1 million profit, what would we do with it? I can assure you it isn't about buying the latest car, tech gadget, or expensive holiday. As a community interest company, we actively use our profits to resource schools and colleges, especially in the area of special educational needs disability, in the UK and overseas. These cornerstone foundations helped navigate us through 2 economic recessions, the pandemic, and political instability without ever seeking external funding. And we still continue to give our profits away, so much so that in 2023 we won the National Multi-Academy Trust Award for our give back to the sector. Most businesses fail within 3 years. So why am I sharing this? The world is changing, and over a third of the current workforce are seeking to set up their own business in the future. That's possibly a third of all of you. The ambition is particularly high amongst 24 to 35-year-olds. A job for life is now rare. The pace of change has and continues to accelerate, as does the volume of information we have access to. None of us know what tomorrow will bring, but in the now, we have a choice to be grateful for the past, including your time at the University of Buckingham, and a choice to be compassionately curious about the future by connecting with others. But it all starts now. A space where we demonstrate our true character, integrity, and values. It is now that opens the doors of opportunity for tomorrow, so use it wisely. Finally, let me bring this into a summary. Daniel J. Boorstin, a Jewish American historian born in 1904 who died 21 years ago, once said, "Education is learning what you didn't even know you didn't know." You leave here today recognized for knowing some things, but there is also much more to learn. Enjoy your day of celebration. You have worked hard and earned it. It fills me with great joy to be here and share this special day with you. But as you step out over the threshold of tomorrow, make time to remember there is so much more for you to discover. Keep reading, keep learning, and keep connecting. Tomorrow is a new day. Since we are all gathered here in this wonderful building of faith, on the eve of Holy Week, let me end with a blessing prayer upon you and your loved ones. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.
Chancellor, I call upon Professor Barnaby Lennon, Dean of the Faculty of Education, to present candidates for awards of the University of Buckingham in Education.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much, Anita. So, last weekend, I took my lazy nephew into my house for 2 days so I could give him GCSE revision classes. He was a typical 16-year-old boy. His notes were thin, he knew little, he had great confidence. Asked about Spanish or religious studies or geography, he just sort of glazed over. But if asked about football, he knew every date, all team members, scores in every detail. So I felt sure that if I could scare him a bit or interest him a bit in GCSEs, which of course start next month, he could do it. So I scared him a bit by stressing how important it was not to make his parents too angry in August when he gets his results. We got out some A3 sheets of paper and we made summaries of every topic he needed to know, topic by topic. And I will discover in August whether I'd made any impact. Although I'm not as confident as he is, Because I believe in the power of teaching, I feel sure that I wasn't wasting my time. And that was me over 2 days. Think how much impact can be made by these wonderful teachers in this room over 30 or 40 years. There are quite a number of arguments in favour of becoming a teacher. The many children or young people you teach who are worthy of your teaching, they are fun to teach. And the fact that you're making a big impact on your pupils whose life will be enriched by your work. You may not know this now, but I promise you that in the years to come, your pupils will remember you and even specific things that you once said. The other day I was invited to a party in London. I wasn't looking forward to it very much, and when I arrived, I assumed I wouldn't know anyone there. But there in the corner, I saw a familiar face of Jacob Rees-Mogg. Now, Jacob Rees-Mogg I taught when he was 13. He is now 56. But he came bounding over. "Hi, Barney," he said. My first reaction was, "Rees-Mogg, don't call me Barney," but let that pass. He just said an interesting thing. He said, "I remember when you taught me," that was in what we called F Block in 1982. He said, "I remember when you taught me about how to draw a graph with independent and dependent variables, x and y axis. If you go up a mountain, the temperature falls, altitude against temperature, x and y. 3 minutes, that was, in 1982, 43 years ago. All his life, he's been thinking about dependent and independent variables. It's quite sad, but there we go. We will be remembered. You teachers, you are the key workers. You may not be massively rich, but in other ways you are rich, and so clever for having chosen a profession which leads to a life brimming with interest and full of moral purpose. And so, Chancellor, I present to you these graduates in education, starting with the degree of Master of Arts in Education, Ian Fern, with distinction. Thomas Manley, with distinction. Charisse Thompson. Imogen Thornton. For the award of postgraduate certificate in education with qualified teacher status through the apprenticeship route, Mary Catherine Cortez, with distinction. Adam Creamer. Helen Edwards, with distinction. Catherine Elgey. Alice Etherington. Charles Leyburn, with distinction. Rebecca Mills. Amy Salt, with distinction. Alistair Stanley. Jade Starling. For the award of Professional Certificate in Education with Qualified Teacher Status through the apprenticeship route, Lisa Tomlinson. For the award of Qualified Teacher Status through the Postgraduate Teacher Apprenticeship route, Deborah Adebogon. Nicola Collier. Christian Findlay. Asmar Gallo. Christopher MacLeod Irvine. Adrian Mester. Cara Shaw. Molly Simpson. Catherine Snow. Leah Ward. Shauna Yarham. Chancellor, that concludes education.
Chancellor, I call upon Professor Harriet Dunbar-Morris, Pro-Vice-Chancellor Academic and Provost, to present candidates for awards of the University of Buckingham in Computing and from our collaborative partner, Learner, in Health Sciences.
Chancellor, I won't say very much. Rather like Rees-Mogg, I remember one thing from my school days which feels rather apt as our graduates, soon-to-be graduates, move on and transition. It's a poem by Emily Dickinson. The going from a world we know to one a wonder still is like the child's adversity, whose vista is a hill. Behind the hill is sorcery and everything unknown. But will the secret compensate for climbing it alone? And what's especially important for you, all of you, as graduates of the University of Buckingham and part of our academic community, is that you are never alone. So do remember that as you go out and on to the next stage of your careers, of your journeys. Chancellor, I present to you the graduates from the School of Computing for the degree of Master of Science in Applied Data Science, degree apprenticeship, Yekuin Shentu. Chancellor, I present to you the graduates of Learner. For the degree of Master of Science in care of the older person, Dora Angelova Dimitrova. For the award of Master of Science in Dermatology in Clinical Practice, Hamida Hassan. For the award of Master of Science in Neurosurgery, Anna Prajna Borak. For the degree of Master of Science in Women's Health, Brian Kennedy with distinction. Catherine Potter. With distinction. Apologies. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Oncology, Amanda Donatelli Rossa. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Care of the Older Person, Mahmoud Choko. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Dermatology in Clinical Practice, Galguna Hassan with distinction. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Family Medicine, Sadaf Al-Yakubi. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Neurosurgery, Abdelrahman Mohammed with distinction. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Pediatrics and Child Health, Fiona Gauci with distinction. For the award of Postgraduate Diploma in Stroke Medicine, Farah Al-Salchi. For the award of Postgraduate Certificate in Critical Care, Courage Idaho. Chancellor, that concludes the presentation.
The Chancellor will now conclude this ceremony.
So, as the Registrar has indicated, this ceremony is drawing towards its close, but not before I have a chance to say to our honorand, Dr. Devi, how much I appreciated her words and her humanity. Education that leaves no one behind, that is what we should all be aiming at, and what she exemplifies. So, graduates, no longer graduands, but graduates, congratulations. We have rightly applauded you and your achievements, but you have been helped on your journey, as you know, by many people, your family and friends, your advisors and coaches, and in particular, in this phase of your journey, by our expert faculty. So we've all applauded you. It's now your chance to applaud them. Please. Thank you. So speaking as a former teacher myself, I know that you are embarked. You probably are already well embarked, because some of you, I know, have some years of experience under your belts. You are embarked on a most worthwhile career. Perhaps not the most worthwhile in financial terms, but in all other terms. Absolutely. As our Dean of Education said, yours is a life full of moral purpose. So today is a transition. It is in a sense an end, but it's a new beginning. You are equipped, as our Vice-Chancellor reminded us of our motto, to fly on your own wings and, more importantly, to help your pupils fly on their own wings. So very good luck. This ceremony is now concluded.
Please be upstanding.
Oh, that's very sweet. Oh.